The Chinese room is a classic fun subject. Let's teach that for a bit. As I've written on the board, the Chinese room is a great thought experiment that concerns whether a computer can have a mind, regardless of how intelligently it behaves. I'll give you all a brief summary for those not philosophically inclined. As shown on the board, suppose there's a room with somebody who doesn't know Chinese, yet, given a set of rules for translating Chinese characters, they can easily respond to questions and construct sentences in Chinese. From the outside it would look like they know Chinese, but do they really? Is there any actual understanding here? End of actions. The core of this thought experiment is to question whether computers that process information in the same way, that is, by following syntactic rules instead of semantics, can actually understand, or if they're just following instructions blindly. There's a beauty in this argument. It's never really been stated anywhere that understanding and intelligence are the same thing, but at the same time nobody would ever admit to thinking that if AI reached superhuman intelligence that it still wouldn't actually comprehend anything. This then arises the question, is there some deeper level of understanding behind all of us that we experience? And if so, what is it that separates the person in the Chinese room from actually understanding the language? End of actions. Some people argue that consciousness is something that naturally emerges from complexity, and in some sense is just an emergent property that arises when you throw enough interconnected neurons together. But then, what causes this difference? Even if we account for the complexity of the brain, there's still the tricky question of how and why consciousness emerges. This is often referred to as the hard problem of consciousness. I'm trying my best to not make things too complicated for you, but philosophy is a very unintuitive and confusing subject at times. The hard problem was first posed by David Chalmers. To be specific, the hard problem of consciousness posits that consciousness is the one thing that cannot be reduced to explanations by physical processes. Even with the knowledge of how each atom in the brain gives rise to our behavior, that wouldn't quite be enough to explain how and why we are conscious. Let's move on to some questions. This time I've made them a little less philosophical, in an attempt to slowly return to the level of brain rot you all naturally inhabit. This is less of a question and more just a quiz to see if any of you are paying attention. The Chinese room is stupidly easy and obvious. If you get this one wrong, then drop out before the shame gets worse. As expected, the vast majority of you got it right. The Chinese room is meant to be an argument against computers and their ability to understand. Let's try something a bit tougher. Please answer John Searle, else I'll be very disappointed. John Searle is the best philosopher and I won't take any criticism of that. In fact, I'll just say it's over if people don't get this. It was John Searle, by the way. Oh my god, I think I forgot to actually list the correct answer. Let's just move quickly before I start feeling embarrassed. I'll give you a hint. Think syntactic and semantic processing. Syntactic language processing is just a set of rules to structure language, whereas semantic is processing with the meaning behind the words. You'd sound pretty strange if you just spoke with syntactic language. It's as if we'd all have no common sense. In the Chinese room, does the person inside understand Chinese? You could argue answers 2 and 3 here. You should technically argue that no is the correct answer, but there are academic claims that it's not clear-cut and that a person with the appropriate rules is really any different from someone who understands a language.
Teacher, I have a question. You need to put the right answer, please. Thank you. That was my question.
Since chat is struggling so much, I've given you a freebie here.
Teacher, please, you're not filling out the required answer correct. Please. What's it called? Whatever.
I know, but it's much funnier this way. Hint, the answer is the phenomenological problem that was coined by David Chalmers. I keep forgetting to provide the correct answer, but the hard problem of consciousness. I'm sure at least some of you got it. Let's try something a little easier. In all seriousness, let's have a recap. The problem that the Chinese room poses is fundamental to our understanding of knowledge. Would you be willing to live in the Chinese room for the rest of your life, only having the ability to respond to questions in a certain language? If not, why? Most people would probably say no to this, but I think answer 2 is a pretty underrated take. Many people are satisfied in spending their life in an illusion, as long as there's still some satisfaction at the end of it. Would you want to live as the person in the Chinese room? I'd imagine most of you would probably answer no. Do you think that a computer can truly understand and possess consciousness, or are they just following rules? Is there something more to their apparent intelligence? Yeah, most people got this one, but if you think about it, is this really that much different from how humans operate? If you zoom all the way out and view the universe on a more macroscopic scale, even humans could be seen as just simply following rules. What if the real answer was simulacra and simulation? Has anyone here read that, by the way? With Simulacra and Simulation by Baudrillard, one of the main concepts is that of hyperreality, that reality is a simulation, a copy of a copy, and that humans can lose sight of what is real and what is not. This loops all the way back to our discussions on illusion earlier. Did you get the answer? It ignores the possibility that understanding could arise from the systems and processes involved, rather than the individual. One of the most common criticisms to the Chinese room, often called the systems reply, is that it ignores the possibility that understanding could arise from the systems involved, i.e., the brain and its networks of neurons, as opposed to just the individual. Aw, come on, Vedal 987 again at the top. When will these others stop being so try-hard and let someone else win for once?